Descent into Darkness, Season 2, A Call of Cthulhu Campaign. Welcome back, gentlemen, to Deathwatch's Call of Cthulhu Campaign, Descent into Darkness, Season 2. I am Travis, and I will be your keeper today. And joining me are Chris, Brandon, Justin, John, and we'll let them say a bit about their characters, starting with you, Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm playing Johan, a retired professor, and I'm currently very, very scared about a dagger in my house.
I'm Brandon. I'm playing Dr. Wallace Andrews, and I am currently involved in the destruction of an ancient corpse kept alive by an evil ritual.
I'm Justin. I'm playing Lance Monroe, who is also very, very concerned about a dagger, although I don't realize it's in Johan's house.
I'm John. I'm playing James Whitmire, and I think I may be losing my mind because I was just mind-controlled by an ancient being that's now, or an ancient corpse that's now destroyed.
Yes, and in Boston, we are gathered here today to witness the passing of Orrin B. Eddy, as his artifact that apparently contains his consciousness has now been destroyed. And let's begin with an occult roll. All three of you can throw it out, but I think Dr. Andrews and Mr. Monroe are occult masters.
Are we?
Oh, I'll use luck. Do I still get to up my skill if I use luck?
If you gotta push it.
Oh, no.
Push it, John.
When am I ever going to get that low of a roll again?
You can use luck to get the success, but unfortunately it does not give you a check.
I'll use the luck to get the success at least.
Was it, you can't take it to a critical, right? Or can you?
Yeah, you can't. Well, you could, if a critical was needed, you could luck it down there. You just wouldn't get the effects, the extra stuff from a critical.
I was saying that, like, right there, you might as well just crit it.
He starts lecturing these guys on, yeah. All right, so you're going to use one luck.
I read a book once.
And I didn't see yours, Dr. Andrew. Oh.
Yeah, I was looking for it.
I thought you were an occult master.
No,
Johan
that's like for the future, what he wanted to be.
Right, that's what he's going to school for.
Yeah.
All right, so this whole experience, one detail came out of your conversations with Orrin B. Eddy, that he chose this site to build the church because it either was on a holy line or this is a sacred site. So Whitmire and Monroe both know that these holy lines or sacred sites are important to various pagan practices around the world. And this brings to mind a few other details in regards to pagan practices. Right now, it's the waning, obviously, that the murder was reported to have occurred on October 31st, right? Halloween. That has all the trappings around it. But that's also, Samhain, the pagan festival, one of the fire festivals that pagans celebrate. And that was perceived to be a liminal phase in which the other world, or, the world of the dead, was more connected to our own. Also of note, around that time, a total lunar eclipse occurred a few days prior to Halloween on the cusp of the 28th and 29th. And so most pagan practitioners would have seen this site and the week surrounding Dooley's murder as pointing to a time of power, right? Mm. Also, it was Sunday, which means, it was important to Christians as well, or Protestants anyways, as it's their Sabbath. All right, so those are just a few details that pop into your guys' head about the occult and the trappings around this sort of thing. But while you're thinking that over, Finn McCracken, he's been scrawling in his notepad for a little while, Jimmy, and he passes the sheet to you after, and it's about a paragraph in length, and he says, You gave me the slip at the Hermetic Order earlier. You didn't come out the way you went in. So I lost you there for a while. But while I was waiting, I saw Logan Terry corner Dr. Call outside the lodge hall. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but it looked antagonistic in nature, but they left separately. Just thought you might want to know.
I'll thank him for the information, and I will ask the others if, or at least Dr. Andrews, so I think that was who was with him, if he'd seen Dr. Call today.
The last time you guys saw him was when you left the lodge hall to go have dinner with Wayne Nichols.
Yeah, no, well, was that today?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, I seen him today.
Okay. Well, I'll relay the information that he got questioned by Logan Terry, so they probably know that I'm not, that I haven't left town. So he might be on the lookout for you guys, too.
I need a pistol.
I'll give him my pistol.
No, I don't really need a pistol.
I'll take my pistol back from him.
It's illegal to have a pistol, and I don't break the law.
But no, it's not.
Might be. It's tough to figure out what the city laws were.
It was in
Massachusetts.
Boston, and in that time illegal to have a concealed handgun.
Good thing it's not concealed.
Yeah, carrying it around. You can see it clearly.
Like a old MMO player.
Yeah.
If you just run around with it in your hand, it's clearly visible.
Dr. Andrews, being the medical doctor that you are, you've been paying attention to this corpse as it stopped moving because it might have a touch more fascination from a medical angle than it does for the rest of the people. But you see that it begins to decay rapidly before your eyes. And once the entity is nothing more than dust, you see a collection of bound journals that was underneath him.
Ah, okay. Fellows, look at this. And I'll step forward and pick up one of the journals.
Yeah, so they have that kind of twine. There's, we'll say, 5 separate journals
Okay.
around them. So they come out in a whole little bundle. But just at a cursory examination, you could see they are writ in Latin.
Ah, and anyone besides me fluent in Latin?
Isn't Monroe?
I wouldn't say fluent, but I can definitely translate a word or two.
Okay.
Bunch of eggheads.
Yeah, so I guess I'll be like look at the covers or whatever and try to determine if these are like 5 in a series, 5 unrelated.
Yeah, you can determine that they're all a series and they're a personal journal belonging to Orrin Eddy. So they start, the top one has the oldest dates, which start in 1856, and then they go out to 1870.
Okay. So yeah, these appear to be this deceased gentleman's journals, and I think we might be able to get some good information from them.
But yeah,
But they go in order, so I'll start thumbing through the first one.
to glean anything out of them, you'll need a few hours to complete a skim reading, and you must pass a Latin roll. So you won't be able to do anything right now. Oh, go ahead.
Am I able to pick up that broken locket? Because I want to hang on to it in case I encounter Mr. Blackman again, and I'll give him what's left of it.
Yeah, you can see it by stomping a locket. You really only broke it at its hinge where it opens, and then there's a picture of it's actually a drawing of a woman, and then you broke the chain off of the little hook that it goes through. So it wasn't terribly destroyed. The rest of your stomping, and I think you went at it with the crowbar too.
Yeah, a bit. It's
just
probably
sort of
all
bent
mangled up.
Yeah, but yeah, you can gather up all the pieces of it.
Was there anything else in there besides the journals? And
Yeah, he had that he described as the personal effects of his departed wife. There was a like an ivory comb, a hand mirror.
Because I would like, if there's enough time before I run into him again, I do want to try and commission someone to build a fake one, a locket, so I can still try and get paid from that.
What did you say was the starting year of the earliest journal?
1856.
Okay. So I'll hang on to those then. Are they small enough to fit into my pocket?
Yeah, they're kind of a little bit bigger than a deck of cards, maybe twice the size.
What is your
Moleskin leather.
Right.
your Latin skill?
53.
Okay, so you're actually a little bit better than me, so we'll have to work on these together.
If you don't mind, I'd prefer taking the last journal to start with, and
Okay.
I'm very interested in.
Yeah, that's
the last
probably
few
where the
months
good
of the-
stuff starts. So yeah, I'll hand him the last one.
And if none of you mind, I would also like to take his beloved's personal effects. I believe that with the right captions, that they would make a good exhibit in my museum.
Is there any?
And of course, the corpse. I'd love to take the corpse.
I would, but it's apparently
dust
decomposed to dust now.
Yeah, you guys, for those of you who've read the Corbett House report, that was the claim by some of the investigators there of what happened to the corpse of Walter Corbett.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was reading Dr. Andrews' expertly handling of femme fatales.
Yeah.
I know, dude. I was trying hard not to
Suits.
laugh at that. That was pretty funny, dude.
'Cause I really enjoyed that one.
That said, it was pretty well written noir too.
So I think we could probably put a bow in the day as the sun finally sets and it becomes night. So what are you guys' plans? Is anybody going to do any investigation through the night? I know a while back, Whitmire, you had wanted to go look at either Mr. Dooley's house or his shop or both. But are the rest of you going to go and get some rest?
I'm going to take this prized journal home and spend
Begin
an hour or
translation?
two- Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Well, wait. Let's see. I'm a doc, so I'm used to. So yeah, me too. I'm gonna go home and start translating the first of the journals. I'm used to going a long time without sleep because of my residency.
That's
where
true.
You have to stay
And
up for
your use of amphetamines.
and cocaine. Yeah.
Okay, so Whitmire, what were you going to do?
Well, we're down the road from Dooley's shop, right?
Yeah, you're not too far.
Yeah, I'll go check that out, and I'll let Finn McCracken know that that I'm heading over there as well.
So, like, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Make it tell him try and make it easier on you.
Well, he scrawls in his book and he asks if you'd like a lookout.
I definitely think that's a good idea.
Okay, so yeah, he'll follow along with you. But we'll return to the apartments of Dr. Andrews and Mr. Monroe as they begin their translation work, so you guys can toss those Latin rolls out there.
Boom.
Nice.
Well done. Hard success for Mr. Monroe.
Getting some check marks back. It's been a couple
nice.
sessions since I actually succeeded at something.
Congratulations, Dr. Andrews. All right, so let's share this guy with you.
That was barely a hard success.
All right, so rather than going to, since it's quite a sizable work, listing any dates, this will just appear as kind of an abstraction of everything you guys have read in there, and there'll be a dividing point between what Dr. Andrews was able to glean and then what Mr. Monroe got. So, Journal of Orrin B. Eddy, Latin, handwritten, entry dates range from 1856 to 1870. The journal entries principally describe the establishment of a place of worship centered around spiritualism as popularized by the Fox Sisters of Hydesville. And Monroe, you didn't get that part. Never mind. Their public seances had given Orrin an idea, and with the help of a wealthy Boston local, Walter Corbett, they established the Chapel of Contemplation and Our Lord Granter of Secrets. Orrin makes only vague reference to his past and his time with the cult of starry wisdom. The memories seem to be painful to recall, and he avoids specifics, except to say that he learned his knack for persuading folk to his beliefs during that period. While the church was technically founded by Walter and a few early followers, by Orrin's estimation it did not begin in earnest until his arrival. Orrin frequently sees Walter as a necessary evil. He describes the man as petty, vengeful, and prone to lies that put him squarely at the center of things. However, he is very wary of Walter and suspects he has access to blasphemous magic via the book Liber Ivanus. With the aid of Walter's money, they erect a church in 1860. Orrin spent the better part of a year selecting the grounds. With some excitement, he describes locating a sacred site within Boston itself, a place he says is a convergence of all matter and all time. Natives performed dark arts here, along with beings older than man. Thus, the place had become a well of potentiality, through which he hoped to again establish a connection with He who waits in the dark. Over the course of many years, Orrin runs what he freely admits to being a con, claiming that when someone died, their consciousness lingered on for a time based on the strength of their personality. Such spirits could be contacted through the spirit mediums. This process was aided by a figure called He Who Waits in the Dark, a deity resembling the Egyptian god Anubis and the Greek god Hermes. That detail you'd get just with your guys' classical education. With society's increasing interest in spiritualism, this act of subterfuge attracts many of the rich and powerful in Boston, including a network of criminals and informers. This criminal element at Orrin's beck and call seek out information on prospective members. Thus, when certain secret details are revealed during the staged seances, the new members more readily buy into the chapel's central tenet. On occasion, this same criminal element allows Orrin to blackmail certain public officials to overlook the chapel's growing reputation of satanic practices. Orrin protests this reputation, although does admit to animal sacrifice, defending this practice as being important to religions new and old. Despite the staged seances, Orrin does seem to believe that at least a few things are real. First, the figure He Who Waits in the Dark is real, and Orrin often laments losing the means to contact this deity. He makes a vague reference to splitting with the master and a missing key element he calls the shining trapezohedron. Second, that the spirit can, in fact, continue after death, a process he claims to have figured out from notes on Egyptian funerary rites that he stole when he left Master. He claims that the first successful experiment with this esoteric power was carried out on Walter Corbett upon his death in 1867. Orrin claims that Walter lives on, knocking around the Weber house he loves so much. Furthermore, he describes that several others of the inner circle were interred in a similar manner over the years. Orrin often laments, and this is kind of where it starts getting into the stuff that you have, Justin.
Yeah.
He often laments the loss of his wife, Alice. The blame for her death is placed at the feet of the unnamed master. He explores the irony of giving peace to his congregation with fake seances, but he can find none for himself. Entries in the 1860s also express a growing concern with the grooming of a young pastor, Michael Thomas, by Walter Corbett. Orrin describes actions that will ensure the leadership of the chapel passes to someone of his choosing. It is in these later entries that Orrin also describes a growing concern with Walter's obsession with the sleeper of Inkai, who Orrin describes as a false god. Though powerful and old, Zagua is nothing more than a lapdog when compared to the true power of He Who Waits in the Dark. Finally, Orrin begins to anticipate his death. He describes being racked with pain most hours of the day and a darkening of his vision. Plans to undergo the same method of burial as Walter Corbett are laid out. The final journal entry, dated February 20th, 1871, reads simply, "The church shall be my body." So yeah, Mr. Monroe, you have those last two paragraphs, and
Okay.
Dr. Andrews has everything else.
So how long, like what time is it when I've learned what I've learned here?
Well, with your 50, you're kind of, with a 50 skill rating, you're able to just translate on the fly. You're just effectively reading it like you would any other book.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have taken, we'll say, 4 hours
Okay.
before you can finally turn in, call it a night, and a significantly less amount of time for Mr. Monroe.
Good. I need my beauty sleep.
All right, so let's go to Mr. Monroe going to sleep. Would you give me a power roll, please?
Oh, that was close. Closer than I'd like with a 90 power skill.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a dream that night, Mr. Monroe, one that you may have anticipated because you heard it described to you by Detective Nichols and his wife, Fiona. But there you are standing out on sort of prairie-type land with a low mound in the distance, and before that, a windmill. You do see one detail that they didn't describe. You see a figure seemingly entering this mound or disappearing behind it. You can give me a spot hidden roll.
I said that I can always see the skills when I'm not looking for them. There it is. Nope.
Okay, you can't make out who it is entering the mound or disappearing behind it. But this has the sense of a lucid dream for you, so you're free to move about in it if you wish.
Figuring that my time will be limited, I'm going to immediately start running towards the mound.
Okay. So on the south side of it, it's about 100 yards before you reach it, so it is quite a jaunt, but you don't get tired.
Yeah.
as is the way of dreams, or you get extraordinarily tired. It depends.
And I'm going to pass the windmill as I head towards the mound, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to keep an eye out for any
Yeah.
unique details.
Yeah, this is like the 20th century version of it. Don't maybe think of like the old style.
Yeah.
This is more the metal frame type one, right?
Okay.
So yeah, you pass it. It's tough to figure out something unique about this windmill, as you imagine there are many of them out here. But you carry on to the mound, and there you see on the south side there is an entry into the mound, confirming what you had thought, is that it was one of the Spiro people burial mounds.
All right.
And that's where you think that figure disappeared into.
I'll head down in.
Okay, so there are just a short few steps as it enters partially into the earth underneath this mound, and you see inside there's sort of a eerie twilight in there, even though there's no light. You can make out shadowy details, but you see a figure sort of digging in the earth at the far end of the interior of this mound, and they look sort of familiar to you.
Do I have any way of producing light, like a lighter or something I might have on me or anything
Do
like
you
that?
carry a lighter? Well, give me a luck roll. We can determine it that way.
I actually have luck again, so hopefully. Yes.
No, nice.
Yeah, so you have a lighter.
Okay. So yeah, I'll light it and hold it up kind of up and in front of me
Yeah.
to illuminate the chamber.
So the reason the figure looked familiar is because they are familiar. You see the comb-over patch of Professor Mueller as he digs in the earth at the far corner of this mound, and while his body sleeps in a boarding house in Salisbury. But yeah, he's there digging in the earth. What would you like to do?
I'll call out to him. Dr. Mueller.
You're free to act, Mueller.
Oh, who is it? I am busy.
It's Monroe.
Gott in Himmel, I can't even escape you. And
No, there's no escaping the good Monroe.
what is it?
You know that we're sleeping, right?
Do I know I'm sleeping?
It's his voice kind of took you out of a dream that you didn't remember when you woke up, and now you have the same sense of lucid dreaming. It feels like you're aware of your dream state. So
Do I know why I was digging?
you don't know. You just basically came to that lucid state right at this moment. His voice seemed to trigger it. But you can see there's an opening beyond where you were digging, like a buried opening.
Of course we're dreaming, but what do you make of this, Monroe? This dream?
Well, it seems to be, what was the name of those people again?
The Nichols, Mr. and Mrs. Nichols?
No,
The Spiro?
The
mound
Spiro people. Yeah. I'll say, well, we're inside a Spiro mound in the Midwest.
Why would I be dreaming about them?
Because this is all tied to the investigation we're doing. This was a place where a god named Zagua was worshipped, and some sort of an item or some sort of spirit has brought us here in our dreams. We must find why it's bringing us here.
It's probably, was it their servants, the ones with the frog statues, or his servants?
The frog statues?
Yeah, the guys that were dropping the...
Oh, the consortium members?
Yeah.
Yeah. Seemingly, because
Well,
you saw that one leave the frog statue for you. In fact, in the timeline, that happened, the dream in which you were remembering occurred right before you entered into this mound dream you're in right now. So that whole experience, which you notice when he turns around, his eyes are beyond ancient looking. Like there's a well of depth that's not there when last you saw him, you know.
That might change some of my answers, because I'm busy, but also what does it all matter?
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'll say. Are you well, sir? We haven't heard anything from you, though. I got your message.
I haven't heard anything from you in millennia.
Millennia, sir. It's been
I saw
a day.
the creation of all things on this planet.
Really?
Indeed. And you come here wondering about a dream. What is a dream, Mr. Monroe?
That's a question for philosophers, my good man, that I am afraid I'm not
We
prepared to
are
tackle.
a dream, Monroe. We are their dream. And none of it matters.
Well, dream or not, I still wish to get to the bottom of this.
There is no bottom. It all goes down forever.
Then let us partake on the journey together, my good friend.
Perhaps you will not wish to be so enthusiastic, Herr Monroe. Fine. There appears to be a hole beyond where I was digging. Perhaps you can go down.
Yes, I will. Will you join me?
Of course. Soon I will wake up, and I will probably attack a secretary and eat her hair.
Excuse me?
I have had the oddest cravings.
Perhaps you should lead first.
Yeah, so that opening turns out to be what looks like a series of man-made tunnels. And as soon as you get it dug out fully, you can hear a sort of thrum emanating from deeper in the earth. But it branches off in multiple directions almost immediately. Although the thrum might be able to be pinpointed with a successful listen roll.
That is never a good sign in places like this, Herr Monroe.
Listen.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy, 20. Here we go. Bam.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, nicely done.
Put
Yeah.
a checkpoint right next to that. Got what I needed.
So this, I suppose we could say these new sensations outside of watching millions of years pass in real time, because they're new, they hit you with your full attention. You're like, what is this new strange sound?
Now that I am bound by flesh again.
So you can pinpoint one of the passages, which ends up being, it splits like 6 ways, and this, by your estimation, would lead somewhere off to the east. So
The tunnel over that way is where the noise is coming from, Herr Monroe.
Well, my good friend, I suppose it is time to face whatever we must face.
Oh, there are worse things than whatever this thrum is.
Well, let's wait until we see what it is before we make that decision. Onward, my friend.
Of course.
And the thrum has sort of a pattern to it. It fades and comes in again, but it'll be like 1, 2, 3, pause, and then 4. But that last one's sort of extended. And as you journey down that hall, you can almost make out like some sort of vocal element within this thrum deep within the earth, but not quite. But anyhow, your path that you chose leads into a hall that's filled with an ambient light emitted by lichen that's on the walls, and it has sort of an odd look to it. It doesn't have the look of nature. It has the look of straight lines, as though it were almost cultivated along the walls of this passage. But it gives you about like candlelight, as though there were candlelight everywhere.
Okay. I'll close my lighter and put it back in my pocket then. I'd rather keep it with
Right.
fluid in case we need it again.
So as you travel on, you can see the walls become or start to be decorated with intricate carvings, including these natural columns as the hall spreads out that tower out of the light. The carvings are very old, and they're also covered with lichen, which is easy if you were to test it to break away. You can take a piece of it off, but much of the fine work appears to be damaged by the passage of time.
My good friend Mueller, an archaeologist, could spend a lifetime here and still not be satisfied.
The southern wall is particularly damaged. It's obliterated in parts and collapsed. But as you guys pause and examine these carvings, you can each give me an archaeology roll.
We're like the perfect team right now. You succeed when I fail, I succeed when you fail.
Yeah,
Well,
that-
I think such stuff is probably below me right now. Who cares what some temple has?
Like, I watched this happen, and it was but a blip in my history.
So you both know they're extremely ancient carvings. You're able to think that they possibly predate the oldest carvings or cave paintings that have been discovered thus far. And you notice the bat-faced toad motif is predominant. There are other things, and they're difficult to make out, but this bat-faced toad keeps appearing. And in some cases, there are enormous versions of this toad. And also, you see abstract and geometric designs, zigzags, and spirals that accompany these carvings. You can give me a mythos roll, but you recognize them as Aklo.
Okay, I was actually just about to ask that.
Aw, it's so dangerous to raise that skill.
Getting it up there pretty high, though.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think we're at the end of the road for Johann, so
All right, well, we'll leave you guys to look at these carvings, and we'll jump over to Whitmire. So which do you favor? Do you want to look at the house or the shop first?
We'll take a look at the
Mr.
shop
Whitmire?
since it's closer.
Okay. So yeah, when you arrive to Mr. Dooley's house, which is straight across from Corbett's house, which is still there, maybe you, depending on how superstitious you are, you get a bit of a chill looking at Corbett's house. It still has that sense of being out of place, considering all the new apartments and stuff that have gone up around it. But in any case, Mr. Dooley's fine tobacco is locked up tight, both the back and the front door.
I'm sure that back door's probably unlocked. I'll go take a look at it.
Okay. Yeah, you think you could probably get through it with a successful locksmith roll. And
Or a pistol skill.
yeah, right.
Nope.
Yeah, well, maybe not. It's an older lock. Sometimes those throw you for a loop.
You got a crowbar.
That's true. You could, with your crowbar, you could wrench the door open with the strength roll,
I guess you could try to push it too.
or you could push it. Yep.
That I'm gonna try and push it.
Okay.
What happens?
As always, the nosing around at night in a locked up place, the risk of discovery is on the line here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So with your second go at it, you're able to get that door opened, and you come into a storeroom of this tobacco shop, and you see a bunch of packages and stuff that looks like his last shipment that had come in is still just sitting here. There's sort of an invoice on top, and then this room leads into the store proper, which has kind of like a bar, and then all the various tobacco products are lined up behind it, except those that require humidity, which has its own special room, and then he had racks with periodicals on them.
I want to do a quick scan of the inventory. Look for anything that I don't know that my knowledge of like tobacco or anything is very very good, but just anything that might seem off to me.
Maybe like an accounting or something? Appraise?
Or
Well, yeah,
maybe
you do see
what the labels are.
Yeah, you could do, you see Lucky Strikes, Edgeworth, Dreamcastle, a bunch of other brands that if you're not really a smoker, they don't stick out to you, although maybe Lucky Strikes probably does. I think they were advertising it pretty well back then.
Yeah, I probably need to take some of these too.
The Lucky Strikes?
Well, yeah, the cigarettes. I'm sure that I could find some boys to run cigarettes for me.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, nothing odd jumps out about them. The oddest thing you would think, we don't need a roll. But you see the order forms are there too, Mr. Dooley's order forms. And as you kind of glance them over, they're really poorly put together order forms. Like he'll have, you might order Schubert's up here for, this particular packaging, but then he'll have them again down someplace else. There's no rhyme or reason. Evidently it worked for Mr. Dooley, but they kind of, if you had to work for him, they would confuse you to try to figure out where everything's at and place in the right orders, because they'll have like Edgeworth in a 7-ounce tin, and then they'll have it in something else, but it's not next together like you think somebody would put together an order form.
One of those guys that are cluttered, but know where everything is for themselves.
Yeah, but this particular shipment is predominantly the Lucky Strikes, Schubert's, Edgeworth, and Dreamcastle. And those range from cigarettes to cigars to pipe tobacco.
Okay. So I'll set aside a case, if there is one, of like the Lucky Strikes. So I should be able to get rid of those pretty quick. And then
I suppose you could take the whole collection. It's just sitting in one like milk crate, like the old wooden ones. Can you visualize that in your head?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Though I'll load it up in the trunk of one of the cars. But then I'll make my way out into the main area there. Okay.
All right, and you're gonna head over to Mr. Dooley's house.
Was there nothing of interest in the main area of the shop?
Nothing that pops out to you. The place looks like it was, it's now frozen in time, although it is pretty dusty as it's been boarded up for half a year or more. You see some of the indications of the rummaging of investigators, but nothing pops out at you, and I don't need a skill roll. There's simply nothing to find.
Okay. Yeah, then I'll go ahead and I'll head over to the house. Like I said, I'll load that up in the trunk of my car.
Okay. So you confer with McCracken shortly, and he follows you over to the house. So the house, which is pretty similar to how I described Peter Fallon's house, that's kind of the American variety of English brownstones, only poorer, if that can be imagined. But it is sealed up. It has, like on a rope placard that says police line, don't cross, and it too has a front and back door, which both appear to be locked.
All right, I'll try and break this one too.
Are you going front or back?
We'll go back again.
All right, so if
there's an easy way to get back there, like if I've got to go through anybody else's yards or anything, I'll probably just walk up to the front.
No, they are separate. You have like 3 feet between each home, and these are only single level. So yeah, that back area comes right into a small little kitchenette. And, one thing you kind of expected when you entered the house is for it to smell like old tobacco smoke, but it actually doesn't smell like that. And then that leads into a living area with several doors on one wall. You have 3, in fact.
Okay. I do a spot hidden, see if I can see anything
about the living area.
Interesting. Yeah. Is there anything that might grab my interest there?
Yeah. Well, you don't need a spot hidden, but you remember the report saying that Mr. Dooley's almanacs and such were neatly organized in his bedroom. Out here in the living room, all these periodicals that he was interested in looking at are not neatly organized. They're just stacks of, you can see where one fell over by some trimmer in the earth in days past, but others are in danger of doing the same. He has sort of like an area on the couch that is, well worn in, but everywhere else on that couch has these periodicals, and there'll be newspapers, there are almanacs, those sorts of things.
If I flip through a couple of those, are they written in as well, like the first one we got was?
Where it was entirely the same phrase in Latin over and over again?
Yeah.
No, the ones in the living room appear to contain the information that they were published with.
Okay. All right. Let's try the first door on the left.
Okay, when you open that door, this has the look you think of the nephew's room, because it has things that teenage boys are interested in. Like he has, like a model train set on the dresser there. But it's otherwise neat and orderly. And you can see a few mementos here from Dooley, like a note on the desk saying, let's go fishing later, that sort of thing. And there's a framed picture of a broad-faced woman bearing a resemblance to Dooley hanging above the bed frame. And there is a journal on the bed as well.
I'll pick that up and start leafing through it.
Yeah, one sec. Let me find it. Oh, nice. I hyperlinked it. Well, it's less a journal. It's like he's not writing about his day, if this is the Charlie Murphy stuff. But this is the last entry on 10/31/1920. It says, Mr. Smith, Lucky Strikes, 1 pack. Mr. DeCory, Edgeworth, 7-ounce tin. Customer X, Wrong Shadow, asked after Dream Castle, placed special order to Breachester, UK. Mr. Callan, Union Labor Long Cut, 1 pouch. Mr. Griffin, Old Gold, 1 carton, Boston Globe. Customer X, New York Times. Customer X, Tube Rose Scotch Snuff, 5-ounce tin. Mr. Leatherman, Lucky Strikes, 2 packs. Mr. Brighton, Lucky Strikes, 1 pack, New York Times and Boston Globe. And so on and so forth. If you go back to earlier dates, this is what the whole journal is, basically.
Okay. So
and it only runs from August of that year.
When did his nephew come and start helping him?
It was August of that year.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense. All right. I'll replace that. And is there anything else that stands out in here? I do want to search for. I do want to search around though for anything that might be hidden away, right? Like a keepsake box or loose floorboard where you hid your eagle's feather and a knife, right? Who knows what they have in this place?
Yeah, you don't find any hidey holes. You just, the more you go over his room, you find this this tendency of extreme orderliness occurring. Like if you open a drawer, things are lined out in a range of, in a gradient of colors, right? If he has different colored shirts, they'll start with darker ones on one side to lighter ones on the other. And this pattern repeats itself. He has a chest full of different colored blocks that were meticulously stacked by color and ordered by size.
Okay.
But that pretty much is it for this room.
All right, let's go to room number 2.
All right, so this room number 2 is Mr. Dooley's bedroom, where the murder was supposed to have occurred. So here you see that shelf that Detective Nichols described as having neatly organized almanacs and various trade magazines. So it's quite a departure from how the living area looked. And if you look at it closer, you can see they're arranged by publication date. On the opposite side of the bed, however, he has his bed nearer to one wall so that you have a bigger space on one side and a narrow space on the other. On that opposite side, you just see a stack of discarded periodicals. And you can still make out the pinkish stain where the eye symbol was purported to have been painted on the wall, although it was scrubbed mostly away. Okay. And a close examination of the floor reveals the same thing, where Dr. Nichols had said there wasn't as much blood as you would expect, but there was some. Now, the whole experience of being in here is unnerving to you, but just in a small way. Most people could get past it shortly, so I do need a SAN roll.
Is that a sanity roll?
Mm-hmm. No sanity is lost. You just a little bit of the willies from being where a murder occurred, especially a grisly one. Is there anything you wanted to do in this room?
Yeah, I want to search around the bed area and like under the bed as well. See if there's anything that may have slipped down there that was missed.
Okay, give me a spot hidden roll.
Can I push it with the negative being my eyes fall out?
That's quite an extreme.
Walks into a coat hanger, like the type on the back of a door.
Or start reaching under the bed and the push
Drop
on a
the
board.
bed on yourself.
Nail goes up into my eyeball.
Well,
the usual.
One part of pushing is describing the further action you are taking. So right now you looked under the bed, like how are you going to justify your push?
Maybe with the flashlight, start moving anything that's under there around.
Risk turning a flashlight on, or light in general.
Yeah.
You could also try flipping the bed.
Yeah. So that's definitely one thing, having a light on will be visible from outside potentially. So
yeah.
And if they have a regular,
keep it off.
Okay. Yeah, I'll allow it. Go for your push. Congratulations, Gamblin' Whitmire.
Always push.
Yeah, so the
one
bed
of my
has
highest skills, man.
Yeah, no
Gotta
reason not
push it.
to.
Underneath the bed has dust bunnies and what have you, and a few odds and ends that have been kicked under there over time. But there is, it almost looks like a piece of maybe 3-inch long wire or something like that. It even glints, but darkly, with your flashlight or your lantern, whichever one you had, that kind of catches your eye. There's something about it that it almost looks like a hair, but way more coarse than you'd ever seen.
I'll slowly reach out for it, try and pull it out.
Okay. Yeah, and it feels like a piece of steel wire or something like that. But when you examine it closely, it's not steel. You're pretty sure of that. You could give me a biology roll, science biology roll if you have it.
Let me take a look.
Otherwise, I think you have sciences at 1%. So
could I do an education instead?
Yeah, we could go for an extreme education. It might pop up in regular studies.
Oof, nope.
Jeez.
Well, I switched it over to extreme.
Okay,
I have an 80 education, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not really that dumb. I'm pretty smart.
You have no idea what it could be. You just have this sense that it's not, metal like you thought at first. There are weird segments in it that allow it to bend a little bit.
I'll tuck it away, and maybe Dr. Andrews can tell me what the hell it is.
Yeah, so when you put it in a pocket or something, jamming it in there, it just pokes you a little bit. It doesn't do any damage. It's not going to give you a disease or anything like that, but it has like these sharp ends to it. So
does it worm
handle
its
it
way
with care.
inside of me?
Yeah, it's gone now. Where did it go?
No, it's I had this thing.
Now it's a part of me. Yeah, so you found this strange hair-like, or a blend between hair and metal, and it's in your pocket. What else would you like to do in here?
I want to check out the almanacs that he has as well and see if there's anything else that I can find that's like written in them.
Okay, so the ones in the narrow side of the bed where they're haphazardly discarded there are, they contain the information you would think that they contain. The ones that were organized on the shelf have the Latin term. Even though you don't speak Latin, you recognize it from handling the almanac that Detective Nichols had. So it's just that one Latin phrase repeated over and over. Let me show it to you guys again. That pop up for you.
30 cents for a copy. What a ripoff.
So it's just like the one that Detective Nichols had found. So you see that Latin over and over again. Every word that appeared in the periodicals has somehow been transposed into this Latin.
It almost seems to me, that...
Of course, you don't have the English translation to go with it. I can't remember if one of the other investigators translated it on the spot.
Almost seems to me that Orrin B. Eddy had gotten inside this guy's mind. But let's take a look in the third room and we'll see if we can find anything.
All right, so this is the bathroom, and it's just small. It's well taken care of for, a man and a boy living in a place, but it might cause a woman to stand back, gasp in shock at, old crud that's built up in the corners. And, there's that particular whiff of mildew that comes out when you open the door. But other than that, there's nothing in there that seems interesting to you.
I want to check in the toilet tank and in the medicine cabinet.
Oh, okay.
If there is one.
All right. So, yeah, in the medicine cabinet, you don't see anything. Well, there is a prescription for some cocaine in there, I suppose.
Take that, too.
Nothing in the toilet tank. And we'll pause there with you and head back over to Mueller and Monroe. You guys have been looking at these for a while. Are you continuing on?
Yeah. Mueller's probably frustrated with me for stopping. He's bored with all this.
Oh, I think he just doesn't care.
Yeah. All right. After spending a decent amount of time, like realizing that I'm still asleep and that I'm going to wake up soon, that I don't have as all the time, I'm gonna push forward.
So the caverns continue on, and they become damp, and you start to see the stalactites forming, stalactites and stalagmites from the dampness. And besides the glowing lichen, other forms of fungi begin to start growing on the walls, and ceilings, and floors. And generations of this growth have made the floor soft with a coating of loam. Moisture makes the floor slippery in places. You notice one time when you're wearing probably your normal get-up, so those smooth soles of they slip down a rock at one moment.
Okay.
Rock falls. You can see it branches out again, but rock falls and collapses have blocked off certain passages and created obstacles in other corridors. And you see that this worked stone is also a part of this natural cavern, kind of like whoever was down here tried to go with the flow of the natural cavern, and they would just enhance the openings.
I'm going to be, chatting his ear off the entire time we're walking, constantly saying, like, can you imagine we may be the first humans to be down here in centuries or perhaps millennia, and, just constantly, speaking as we go.
Echoing off yeah.
Well, Herr Monroe, we have nothing to worry about if it is humans that have only been here. It's the other things that we must worry about.
Yes, very true, my friend. Very true, very true.
So yeah, many of these surfaces are still decorated with more of the toad and geometric carvings, as well as the occasional unfathomable text. Like it's not Aklo, but it's some other language you don't even have any inkling on how to approach it. It doesn't look like any of the ones that either of you are familiar with. But after a while of being in there, you guys can give me a science geology roll.
Uh-oh.
So 1% if you don't have it, and then whatever your skill is in it.
Geology?
Mm-hmm.
It starts at 15?
No, you got 15 because you witnessed geology happen
Yeah, okay.
in real time.
I've got nothing. So
Oh.
do I just roll a 1d100 or?
Yeah, and if you roll a 1, then you'll...
Was that 6?
No, that was
Pretty close. Oh, that's a T10.
I
Sorry,
might luck it. Do I need just a standard success?
Yeah.
Is that 6?
Oh,
I'll luck it.
I got an 11.
Oh, nice. But you needed a 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you got a 65, right? You
Oh,
rolled 2D10
yeah.
if you're doing it that way.
Yeah, I guess
They do have a D100.
they do. They changed all the dice stuff, so
So you're going to luck it?
Yeah.
okay, yeah, they do.
Okay, because you know how sediment and stone gets all layered up over the years. It's newly acquired information.
Yeah.
You realize that some of these structures or some of these carvings had to have happened millennia ago. Such realizations might, like outside of human existence, right, might be a shock, but since you just went through one, you won't have to do the sand roll. But yeah, that's you realize that whoever was down here and did these carvings, did these things, did them far beyond the accepted length of time that humans have actually been a species.
Yeah, I think Monroe was already kind of hinting at that
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah, so I'll kind of
Confirm it.
thump the carving with a cane, and these are far older than should be. Like you said earlier, Monroe, these predate what humans should have been doing.
The more we go, the more fascinating I become, and at this point, my fascination is overwhelming my terror. Let's hope that does not change.
I saw a flying black pyramid communicate with.
You must speak of what you experienced when this is through.
Fortunately, I can't remember it all right now, or I would.
You don't remember it well. It's usually triggered
No,
by...
I mean me.
Oh, right.
Like I actually can't remember all of it. I can't remember like they were they tentacle things or were they plants? I can't remember what came and communicated or the pyramid communicated with.
Yeah, they're a pretty long description. One sec here.
But that is besides the point, Herr Monroe.
Well,
Thank God we are in a dream, right?
yes, and of course you can't be hurting dreams, right?
That's not what I've come to believe.
Well,
I believe that.
that's going to unsettle me a little bit because he had been banking on the idea that he was safer.
Not your body, Mr. Monroe, but your mind.
Your mind.
Yeah, so as I said, this is kind of broken up and they are smaller passages that have been widened sometimes, but eventually this comes into a wider hall. It's almost like you could imagine in Egyptian times, the both of you, that this would be like where processions would come through, right? So it has that size to it. But this place is decorated extensively with the elaborate carvings. And while the toad motif and geometric designs are present, there's also a series of murals. So first, there are carvings of landscapes, like studded with towers and other structures. And robed serpentine figures are depicted engaged in various pursuits. Some images show them worshiping an enormous toad-like figure. And then there's a later series of murals in which the land becomes colder, with glaciers in the distance and snow-covered terrain. Others depict the serpentine people and their cities being attacked by what appear to be early humans. And the end scene shows the serpent people abandoning their cities above ground to the humans and migrating underground, creating a new homeland under the earth.
Okay.
And then you guys wake up in your bed.
No, I don't get to.
Well, you wake up screaming and go on an adventure. All right. So, what are you going to do after that, Mr. Whitmire? Turn in for the night?
The mixture of mescaline and
Yeah, because I'm going to head back to one of my safe houses, or McCraken's if I don't trust mine.
All right. So with all of you safely in your beds or waking from your beds in a state of insanity, we will proceed to the next day where I need to know what the Boston cruise plans are. What are you guys going to do?
My plan is to drop off the artifacts that I have at my museum and then head towards where my last known whereabouts of Mueller were.
Okay.
Which I don't remember. I think it was that you were headed towards Arkham, but I don't remember where we got the message from him about the stranger.
The Newburyport transit station.
Okay. So that'll be where I'll head.
Okay.
I want to find Dr. Andrews and show him this thing.
Yeah, I'll probably get up and go to breakfast at
O'Flannery's.
O'Flannery's or whatever we called it.
Yeah, I guess we would
Which
probably
would be like the
have
morning
plans
meeting place
to
yeah.
meet.
Yeah, as gentlemen do, you guys.
Yeah, without cell phones where you can text if your plans change.
I'll be like, so yeah, you arranged to meet at O'Flannery's for some good country breakfast, and we'll open there. You're all seated and awaiting your meals.
So I'll start then and say that I made some good progress on the journals last night, at least the first one, and I'll just basically give an outline of the things that I had discovered.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll hand the last one back to him. I'll say, unfortunately, the last one had very little actual information in it. It seemed mostly the regrets and lamentations of a dying man, though he did mention some steps that he had taken to try to ensure that Pastor Michael Thomas was not going to be the successor to the controller of the church, though he did mention something called the Master quite a bit, and several times he mentioned a watcher in the dark that he had started the church to worship, but not
He who waits in the dark.
he who waits in
Is
the dark.
what I found. Mm-hmm. And that he mostly was running it as a con. I don't know if that was detailed in the part you read, but he set this whole thing up with like fake seances and things that other people weren't aware that it was fake. But
No, I'm afraid that at his end he was mostly just lamenting that he had lost control of the church and that he could not find solace for his own grief.
Well, I'll continue to pore through them and see what else I can determine. We might be able to get more weighty information in the middle volumes. Would you like the fourth one?
Yes. I should have a train journey that I can work on it while I head to try and find the good Herr Mueller.
Oh, you're going to go look for Mr. Mueller?
Yes, I had a dream that I just can't seem to shake, that I'm a little bit concerned about his mental state.
Oh, I see.
That when paired with the message that he sent, I feel that I must check in on him.
Mr. Whitmire, what are your plans?
Well, I didn't find anything out of the ordinary in Mr. Dooley's tobacco shop. I went and I searched his house as well. It looks like his nephew was doing, fairly well as helping him with that shop. But I did find one thing that I can't quite pin what it is, and I'll pull that thing out of my pocket and say, it looks like hair, but it feels like metal, and I'll hand it to Dr. Andrews, or try to. So have you ever seen this before?
Is it in a thing, like a jar, or?
I guess he just has it.
No, it's just
you're holding
loose.
it between your fingers.
Yeah.
After the slugs, you might be a little nervous on handling stuff.
Yeah, I'll just motion for him to set it on the table, and I'll move it around with a piece of silverware that I won't use to eat.
And inspect it. Yeah, so if you guys have science.
I had it in my pocket all night, and I slept on it, and it didn't go inside of me, so I think you're fine.
You haven't grown an extra arm either.
Yeah.
So if we hadn't gone through Peru together, I would be genuinely concerned as to why he thought that it might go inside.
Yeah.
But I also like Andrews. You're like, yeah, I had a dream about Mueller and I'm worried about him, so I'm going to go check on him. And Andrews is like, oh, okay. I guess premonitions do that. But so you have
Oh, right. That's my bad. I'll ask him more about that after this.
Okay. Well, so you guys have 3 different skills you can use. We could do extreme education success would identify it, hard medicine would identify it, or a regular science biology roll would identify it. So pick your best odds.
You said
Between the two of you.
extreme education?
Yeah.
Oh, nope.
No, it's close.
Yeah. I'd
Let's-
save my
Anybody get
luck
it?
for, that.
Well, I'm trying to. What is the hard? What's the percentage? What does that add to it? Like,
You can toggle it on your character sheet to
yeah,
figure it out for you.
I think he's
trying
Hard
to
is-
figure out the
I think
odds.
hard is what, 50%?
50% of your skill
Yeah.
or
All right.
under.
so then it's still better for me to do biology, but that fails.
All right. Again, you get the similar assessment that Mr. Whitmire, again, that even though it has almost a metal texture to it, it appears to be organic in nature, although you can't ascertain more than that, at least not without a pushed roll or some luck spent.
That'd be a lot of luck.
No, I can't. I won't do either of those things.
yeah, it's too precious.
Yeah, of course, you guys have university connections, so
Yeah, we
it's
might.
possible you could
Yeah.
send it off to their biology department to have it analyzed. All
I
right,
would
so
be
anyhow, back to
okay
your
with
guys'
that.
conversation.
I mean, Johan has been preaching constantly about interns needing to be driven insane by discovering this stuff for us. If you do it right, they probably wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
Right? You just split it up into enough, like, translations into enough segments.
It's all the pieces falling into place that
And where did you find this, Mr. Whitmire?
That was under Mr. Dooley's bed.
And what does it look like again?
it looks like a long hair, although thick and coarse, and it seems metal at first, but that can't quite be correct. As you manipulate it with your fork, you can see it has like these little, almost like scales that run down it, and they sort of open this way and that when you move it.
Isn't it almost like actual hair? This would just be on a bigger level,
Right.
so you're actually able to view.
I
Now-
would be okay with us sending it to your college connections.
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
His college connections would probably be more useful than mine.
Yeah. Well, you have, depending on where you take it, if you go to here in Boston, you could do a skill roll that you only need a regular success. But if you go elsewhere, like if you try to do it up in Miskatonic, even though you are there periodically, you don't necessarily interact with the various faculty that much.
I'm just saying he probably went to a medical university.
Right,
And
yeah.
his medical,
Here in Harvard.
yeah,
Yeah.
and archaeologists probably wouldn't have the same skill set.
Yeah. So, Brandon, with you or with a regular medicine, you could have a contact at, say, the biology department on
Oh.
Harvard.
You want me to roll a medicine?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Well, you didn't keep up your connections with people you met during your schooling after the death of your wife and daughter. You'd been in a funk and traveled abroad, so
Can you only push rolls that would be skill upable, or
You can push these.
You could push it if you want.
yeah, like the
Yeah, let me look at something real quick.
So like
one failure means his contact. Say, yeah, you have a contact, but
Your
then I could be
contact
like,
is
he's a
dead.
consortium member, or he works for Francis Walsh or something like that.
And then, so remind me again, like how pushing.
you roll it again, but you have to kind of determine how you're going at it differently
Yeah.
and the possible negative. Like John would have alerted someone with his flashlight last night when he was in Dooley's house, and the cops could have been called.
Gotcha.
Yeah, in this case, to help you out, you could say, well, this was you thinking of your time at Harvard, so you could be like, well, I could try a different school here. We all interacted in various events and stuff, but I didn't know them as well. That could be like you giving a new direction to your attempt.
Yeah.
And then I would say, well, you don't know these people as well. And considering the sensitive nature of your investigation, it's possible that maybe you don't want somebody you don't know well to get a hold of any piece of information, because it's not clear whether or not this could be evidence.
Mhm.
Your contact
So that's the...
will be Logan Terry. I do got this one guy.
So that's what you're risking, although the odds are in your favor.
Went to medical school and I became a cop instead. All because of one
Okay.
little mistake.
Yeah, I'll push it then, and we'll do that. We'll like what's the difference? The University of Massachusetts, or
Right, yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. So yeah, you
So I want that to mean that I actually found one of my old Harvard contacts, and he's now working at the University of Massachusetts.
okay.
That's why it's a hard success. But anyway, no, I'm just
Yeah, so it was Van Barnett is the name of your contact.
Van
So
Barnett.
yeah. The reason you know he's a University of Massachusetts guy is because he's one of the people you did your residency with. So that's how you made that connection there. He just came from a different school. But you got along well enough, and he seemed like an upstanding guy. And he had a depth of knowledge about biology that you lacked outside of human biology. All right. Meeting
Yeah.
continue.
So, Lance, what is this about a dream about Mueller, and now suddenly you're going to go looking for him? Because, you know,
This
dreams aren't real.
may sound crazy, but I had the same dream that the detective and his wife had mentioned having
No.
of the mound out in the Midwest somewhere. And in the dream, I came across Herr Mueller. And while, you know, he, in most form, he was still the old man that we all know and love, he seemed a slight bit off. And it may just be that my mind is fixated on his last message, where he cautioned us, and the location that he sent it from was not where he was headed, which also concerns me gravely. But when I woke up, I felt that I needed to go find him.
I see. Do you feel like it will be dangerous? Because
Well,
I don't think that we should put off going out to the asylum much longer.
no, I wasn't suggesting that we all go find.
Yes, but I'm
Mueller.
wondering if it's safe for you to go alone.
Well,
Maybe you should take Mr. Whitmire with you.
if
He's
Mis-
pretty handy.
if Mr. Whitmire is up for such a journey, then
And
I
then-
would gladly accept his company.
And then I can go to Arkham. Is that the asylum he's in?
Roxbury.
Roxbury Asylum. And see what I can determine from meeting with the boy and his doctors there.
Okay. Be very careful. If Dr. Call was accosted yesterday, then he may have mentioned some of the information that we'd gathered. Perhaps you should take Mr. Whitmire, as I'm going to a location that nobody seems to know of.
Okay. Yeah, if you're sure. Would you accompany me, Mr. Whitmire, to the asylum?
I would love to go to the asylum. Who knows what trouble I'll get into there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's never coming back, is he?
Mr. Whitmire, you feel much better this morning after a bit of rest. So you're
Yeah,
no
good.
longer temporarily insane.
All right.
Man, did they have like all the weird asylum drugs back then? What all could he get in trouble with?
Oh, yeah. Didn't they use like laudanum and opium?
Oh, yeah. Who
Well,
knows?
that was in standard society too.
All right. So Mr. Monroe is going to take a train journey up to Arkham, and you can, the other two can travel by car to Roxbury, or it is about an hour train ride south of Boston. Which do you prefer to travel?
Yeah, I don't have a car. The train's fine with me.
I
and
have
then I can.
a car.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's take your car then.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Monroe, you catch the 9:30 up to Newbury Transit Port Station.
Okay. I'd also, on my way to the train station, drop off the two
Artifacts?
Yeah, the two toad statues and
Okay.
the mirror and the
Okay.
other thing.
And you arrive at Newbury Port some hours later, which is just on the border of New Hampshire and Massachusetts, so well north of Arkham. Usually people going to Arkham jump the train in Bolton to the one traveling to Arkham. But you pass through there, but now you're standing at this transit station. It is kind of a larger junction for trains going elsewhere in New England and further abroad. And you got a guy out there selling like meat pies out of a cart or other good things, you know,
Okay.
corn on a stick.
Yeah, look for somebody that looks like they would be in a good position to watch people come and go.
Hey, you look like a creep.
Well, you got the guy who takes, sells tickets and
There's a
whatnot.
ticket salesman. There might be like a police officer that's in the.
You got a guy
entryway or something
stocking
like that.
the periodical.
But yeah, I'll approach a few of them and ask them if they had seen a man that resembles.
All right, let's see how people are reacting to Mr. Monroe today. Let's get a appearance or credit rating, whichever is your better one.
Can I do persuade?
Well, this is their initial react. This is like upon sight, so
Let's see.
a 30-minute.
When a garishly flamboyant man
Right.
walks up to you on the street.
Where is credit? Okay, credit rating. Yeah, I'm looking pretty disheveled.
How's that
People
worse
like
than
the
your-
way I look.
My credit rating's only a 23,
Oh wow!
and that's after I boosted it significantly after I got the money from the last one, from the Peru missions.
Yeah, so you get a combination of, hey, look, fella, whatever you're selling, we're not buying, or people that are very closed off. You might be able to change the opinion of one of them with a social skill roll of your choice. Persuade, I don't do it well enough, but persuade takes time, which means you can't do it like in the heat of the moment. You can't change somebody's mind in a round. So this is you like really forcing yours, and you're like, no, look.
Like kind of.
I can take a shot into psychology.
Psychology is though is more of a sense.
Oh,
Although you can't, you could
Just
roll
fast
psychology
talk
to
'em.
see why people don't like you.
I know why people don't like me.
And yet he can't help himself.
Yep. I have a fast talk of 5, so that's not going to
You
work.
can do persuade. It's just you'll be hung up here for a while, trying
Intimidate?
Yeah.
to sway people around.
Can
to
I
your-
find like a police officer or someone like that may,
Do the question
or a
for you.
guard
You-
in
You
Yeah.
find
area
Logan
that's a-
Terry. He's the
Ah.
only cop around now.
It's looking like you find Logan Terry.
Yep.
Nope.
Push it,
No
and
persuade.
that will be your consequence.
You see that your attempts at gaining more information about yesterday morning or
Yeah.
early afternoon, if somebody arrived here, they're like, well, we see people all the time. Like, what are you talking about? But
I guess
you could push it by doing more of what you're doing. The downside is that in the meta sense, he went crazy in a hotel room and stole somebody's car and traveled south. So that's the threat of maybe coming at you.
instead of like pushing my luck here, I'm gonna go to the telegram office that he sent it from, show
Okay.
them the telegram, and ask them if they know where he was headed after he left there.
Oh, that's pretty good thinking. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No skill roll needed. We'll just that's thinking around the issue. So, yeah, you show that to that person, and which is a man, like a portly looking fella, and he says, "Yeah, I remember the guy, old fella, German accent.
Yes,
That's
the man.
He left with the food vendor over there, the street vendor.
Really?
Yeah, took him somewhere. I don't know. They left in his truck.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'll give him a quarter or something like that as a small thank you. It's like a couple bucks back
Right.
then.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's thankful and wishes you to have a nice day.
Then I'll go find the food vendor.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, he's got little meat pies and other, some jerky, corn on a stick, other things like that. And he also sells some periodicals there.
All right. So I'll purchase a light snack and strike up a conversation. My good friend, apparently a good friend of mine approached you yesterday and got a ride from you somewhere. I was wondering if perhaps you could tell me where you dropped him off. He was an elderly gentleman, German accent, may have been acting a little bit odd. I'm concerned about him and would like to find him as soon as possible.
Give me a psychology roll.
I'm just...
Push it.
Push it.
We'll go with that one.
Okay. He's like, yeah, I know the fella. Took him down the road there to Salisbury. I think he got in a bit of trouble down there.
That's what I was afraid of.
Do you know where he's at?
I'm afraid I don't. I was hoping you might be able to tell me, but you said you dropped him off in Salisbury.
Yeah, they got a boarding house there. I assume that's where he must be.
Well, I I suppose that my journey shall continue until I find someone who may have seen him down there.
Well, one question before you go. Who are you to him?
Just a colleague.
Okay.
We both have interests in Latin and other archaeological pursuits, and
All right.
and I'll actually pull out one of my museum things and say, I see your head's about to explode, Chris.
Oh no, I'm having fun.
But I'll hand in the bill and I'll say, perhaps if you're interested and you're ever down in the area, I actually curate a museum that focuses on matters of the occult in early American history.
Thank you. I will check it out if I'm down there. And, he wishes you well as you go on your way. But you see him, he kind of stands up next to his stand there and he strikes up a cigarette and he's sort of smoking, looking at you, looking at the police officer walking down the way and looking at you, looking at the police officer, trying to make up his mind about something.
Put a bullet in the back of his head right now.
But yeah, I'll try and either hail a cab or do I know if there's a train that goes to Salisbury that I can jump on?
No, there isn't one. You would have to get a ride.
So yeah, I'll try and find a ride. Would they have any kind of cab or something like that at the train station to take people?
You could telegram a transportation company and arrange somebody to come pick you up.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, yeah, and all the time, but your psychology roll failed, so you're oblivious to any suspicion. But
Yep.
He doesn't seem to do anything at that point. And just for the record, he doesn't have that car with the nice cherry wood finish paint job. He has a different car. But anyhow, so we'll jump over to Mr. Whitmire and Dr. Andrews. So Dr. Andrews and Mr. Whitmire are heading up to Roxbury Sanitarium. Dr. Andrews, did you want to stop by the university? And
Yeah, we're going to have to go there and talk with Van Barnett.
yeah, so he went a different path after his residency. He decided to teach rather than practice medicine.
Those who can't do.
But as I said, or as I had mentioned, his skill did seem to lie in that area. He was more on the academic side of it rather than the practice. So you've telegrammed ahead and arranged a short meeting over tea or coffee. And he actually is able to, after examining it just briefly, did you move it to a little glass jar as is appropriate?
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of rattles it in there and looks at it. And he'd say, well, it looks metal, but I definitely think it's organic. And this looks to me like a seta or insect hair, but from a much larger insect that I know of.
Like how large would an insect need to be to have a hair like this? You're talking about like the little hairs on a spider, maybe.
Right. Exponentially larger for it to be big enough to see, the pattern in the hair. And the tensile strength of it is similar to insects. They're just much smaller. So they're easily crushed. If you guys have the time, you could look under the microscope at the ones we have here in university. But if you're rushed, I understand.
Well, sure, we have a few minutes.
Okay. So yeah, that's he leads you into one of the unused classrooms, and there they have an old ancient microscope, and he puts one in a slide underneath the lens. And yeah, it's a match for that. There's differences in coloration and whatnot, but that's exactly what it is. It just looks nothing more than a large, oversized insect hair.
What could leave this behind?
Well, I know of no such insect with enough size to have a hair this big. I haven't even read of one. Have you guys traveled abroad and, maybe picked it up in the Amazon basin or elsewhere? Some undiscovered animal?
This was found in Boston.
Well, that's very interesting. Well, we certainly don't have insects of that size, insects of unusual size here in Boston. But, if you guys left it with me for a couple days, I could run some deeper analysis on it and get that information back to you.
I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it.
Well, it's good to see you again, Dr. Andrews.
You too.
Get in touch and we can have lunch or dinner.
Most definitely.
My treat. All right, so back in Whitmire's car, you head about an hour's drive outside of Boston and into the countryside, and you approach the Roxbury Sanitarium, which is a converted 3-story manor house with a long porch that sort of wraps around the front or two of the sides of the manor house, looking out over a lush green lawn. You can see they have several patients out in wheelchairs that stare sort of vacantly out into the lawn. Some are drooling, some mumble half-understood words as you approach the building. Some look at you with eyes that seem to beg for rescue, but a pair of muscular orderlies are out there watching all the patients. Inside, distantly, you can hear the whoops and hollers of the insane, and it makes sort of a chaotic song, maybe like a bird enclosure gone mad. There's a secretary there working the desk, and she exudes a calm togetherness, but it's belied by the tightness of her eyes. Anyhow, there you guys are.
I will introduce myself then and say, Dr. Andrews, and I am here to speak with, I already forgot his name.
Lewis Powell.
Lewis Powell? Okay, yeah, with Dr. Lewis Powell.
Oh, that's right. I think he had mentioned something about that. Wait here one moment. And she walks away from the desk through a door, and a few minutes later comes back with Dr. Lewis Powell, who proves to be a short, slim-boned man with maybe some Greek ancestry, somewhere Mediterranean, by the olive tint to his skin, light olive tint. But he extends his small hand to shake yours first, Dr. Andrews.
Yeah, I'll shake his hand. Pleasure to meet you, Doctor.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you as well. So how do you know our good friend, Dr. Call?
Well, I've recently become friends with Dr. Call, as we are fellow members of a
club,
sort of like a social club together. And he recommended you because we're looking into the case of the Dooley murder.
Yes. Yeah. Interested in young Charlie Murphy?
Yes, most interested.
And who is your friend?
This is Mr. Whitmire. And then I'll let Mr. Whitmire introduce himself.
I'll stick my hand out and just tell him that I'm also part of the same social club with Dr. Call and looking into the death of poor Mr. Dooley. All right.
Well, it's nice to meet both of you. I'll have Murphy brought out for you guys to talk with him. And you had gotten some papers last night that you were supposed to get signed on behalf of James Clark.
Right. For
representation.
Yeah.
So you guys have those with you now. And he leads you to sort of like a day room that's currently empty at the moment. You know, they have chairs that look out the windows and, like those gaming tables where you can play chess or checkers or whatnot. And some tables for sitting and eating. And he asks you to seat yourself and if he can get you any tea or coffee.
None for me, thank you.
So what's your... Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Whitmire.
I'll take a coffee.
Okay. And he has a nurse run out to get those. And he questioned you a bit further, Dr. Andrews, about your expertise in the field of medicine.
Well, I'm a medical doctor. I'm a surgeon, and I trained at Harvard, and blah, blah, blah.
And so now you're moonlighting as a...
Did some work out in Peru for a Catholic church out there, providing some aid to lower income residents. And now I'm back in Boston and joined this social club. And now it just was an interesting case that a close friend of mine, a close acquaintance of mine, suggested that I look into while I'm waiting to get started on the next phase of my education.
Surgeons, quite the miracle workers these days. In university, had thought to go that direction, but I went a different. I suppose you real doctors might sneer at my doctor in the psychoanalytic method. Hopefully that's not the case, but I have encountered that from time to time, which is why Dr. Call and I are good friends, because he took it with the seriousness I think it deserves.
There might have been a time when I would have sneered, but certainly no longer. In fact, I've began to make my own forays into that field as well. So I have nothing but respect for the path you've taken. There's many mysteries to be discovered within the mind.
It's been my lifelong preoccupation. I remember in medical school, I toured a sanitarium back then, and there was a young man who was held there who drew mazes, of all things, on parchment, these intricate mazes. He just finished one, go on to the next. And I had this sort of awakening when I saw that, that I just had a insatiable curiousness for what went on in other people's heads. And, come to find out, you take all these sheets of mazes, and he had plastered them to the wall in his room, and then you saw at a distance of, say, 12 feet that all these little mazes, when seen at that distance, made a bigger maze. And this was a man who was no use to society. He was just held in a room, and he was obsessed with this thing, and I wanted to know why. Why did he do this? Could we make him of use to society, or was he damned to work out these mazes? And I realized that, there's a ton of other people that are different degrees of that. They just are, by God's will, born with dumb hands, slow tongues. But what goes on in their head? What dark stars burn there? Pardon the poetry, but... So yes, that's my obsession. And this Charlie Murphy of yours is quite interesting. We've been running these assessments on behalf of the state to see if he's fit for trial, but he's peaceful, but he does not speak to us. He will go through the batteries, the assessing his intellect, and he does quite well on those. Scores very highly above average, I would say, but he just refuses to speak. And he'll be here shortly. There's something that might be of interest to you. I have had the orderlies not deliver him his breakfast, and we'll have it delivered here now, but something for you to observe when he comes in. So a little while later, Charlie Murphy is brought in by the orderlies, and there you see a slight young man of 16 years of age, less than 130 pounds. And just upon sight, both you and Whitmire would find it preposterous to imagine the murder of his uncle as it's been described. Because he would struggle to do anything physical. He looks like skin and bones. But he does have clear eyes, and they take you in, but then they dart away to something else that interests him. And Dr. Powell just says, well, just stand back and take a look at this. And a tray of food is brought in there. You see mashed potatoes, diced peas and carrots and corn, and some slab of meat that is difficult to determine what it is.
Sam roll.
in a gray sauce. But the first thing that Charlie Murphy does when it's set before him is he goes to order all of the diced up vegetables. So he orders them by, the type. And then once he's got that done, he actually goes to a different project and starts to stack these diced up vegetables one on top of the other. He ignores his mashed potatoes and his meat except to scrape the gray gravy off of the meat into a pool next to it on the tray. So what do you make of young Mr. Murphy?
Oh, that's amazing how he's able to stack those vegetables like that.
They do topple from time to time, but he does get, maybe 5-6 pieces high before they do.
Yeah, so I want to watch carefully and see when they topple. Do I detect any signs of frustration or anger or a reaction of any kind from Charlie when they topple?
Yeah, you do. Well, psychology roll. Let's try it that way.
Okay. Failure.
You don't pick up maybe a slight flicker, but it's very quickly gone. His face is passive for the most part.
Did you want me to do one as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll luck that.
Yeah, so you do see it does frustrate him, but he gets back into the process of doing that.
And is it just random stacks, or does there seem to
It's
be
like by
something that
kind,
he's trying
right?
to build?
Well, the first act he did was to sort them by kind, but now he stacks them in certain ways, and you see that there is a pattern that he always begins with. He he does begin with the hardier piece of carrots at the bottom, the most stable part of the structure, before he attempts peas. But they do seem to be alternating in colors. So, Dr. Andrews, Mr. Whitmire, you wish to question Charlie Murphy. I'll allow it, but I don't think you'll have any success. I have been taken with the idea of hypnotism, except that the state requires very specific manners, and that would void the assessment. But I'm at my wit's end for how to get Murphy to communicate. He does appear to have the ability to read or understand written word. As to whether or not he can write, he's never done it here, although presumably he did it at the police station when he signed his confession.
Yes, that's one of the things I came to ask about. In your opinion, do you think that this boy could write, let alone sign a confession?
I think that he could. I don't understand why he did. And unfortunately, all the doctors and I agree that regardless of what we think this boy might be capable of, we're going to be forced to rule him as fit to stand trial. Of course, there are more tests to run, and it'll be a while yet, but that's what it's leaning towards.
And why would you be forced to declare him fit?
Well,
Do you mean forced as in coerced, or because under the rules you have no recourse?
We're coerced by the scientific method in this degree. He won't meet the standards of insanity in the state of Massachusetts.
But there is a question of his not necessarily insanity, but just simple capability.
No, that's true, but that's why we're somewhat hesitant that it looks like it's going that way, because I don't think that this boy had anything to do with the murder. But that's not our part of it.
Right. Well, yeah, we'll try to speak with the boy, but first I wanted to mention to you that we have managed to retain a very capable defense attorney who will defend young Charlie. And I only say this to you because you seem sympathetic to him, which I admit was not what I expected. But the only way that this attorney can take over as his defense counsel is if Charlie requests it.
I understand. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I'll, of course, be here to monitor it, but you're free to try to get him to sign it. I don't know of any technique that I could offer you that will work,
I suppose it's a shame we can't ask the police how they got him to sign his confession.
Well, I have that question in my mind. You haven't asked them in your investigation yet?
No, not yet.
Well, pull some chairs up next to his table there. He won't react much to you, I'm sure, but I'm just going to go observe.
Okay.
Take some notes if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so you and Mr. Whitmire pull up some of these industrial-style metal chairs up to his table across from him, where now at this stage he's given up on his vegetables stacking, and he's eating the vegetables in pretty much the same order he sorted it. So starting with the carrots. And his eyes only flicker up to you when you guys are seated.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll go sit down then at that table, and I'll just observe him for a little bit. Like I won't start away trying to talk to him, just sort of watch what he does, how he eats, and see if I can determine if he's made uncomfortable by my presence or anything like that. But while I'm sitting there, like just sort of passing the time, I wanted to take out his uncle's diary and just start thumbing through it, see if I catch any recognition from Charlie.
Yeah, he does recognize it. He pauses and looks at it and then gives a very long look to you before returning to his mill, where he's moved on to the mashed potatoes now. And you're not certain, but you'd almost think that each spoonful is the same size, You might even wager a bet that if you were to weigh it or measure it, it would be the same each time.
All right. So how does that help? What does that relate to? Well, I guess at that point, once I notice that he's noticed that, then I will try speaking with him, and I'll say, Charlie, I'll just say, Charlie, I'm Wally, and I was acquainted with your uncle, and so I came here to see if I could help. Do you remember what happened to your uncle? And I'll sort of like slide the journal like towards him, like slowly, but that in case he wants to pick it up or whatever.
Okay.
So I guess at this point, like for game terms, I would be doing like a persuade. I'm trying to persuade him
To open up.
to speak with me. So I'll be like, even if you don't want to talk, you can just nod or knock on the table once for yes, two for no, that sort of thing. So I'll be trying to persuade, really.
Okay.
It's the best I can come up with. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll start with a hard persuade is what you will need.
Okay. Yeah, so like that's what I'll try. Having a sister who's got her own problems, I know that it's best not to be pushy with them, because that can go catastrophic. So I'll just sort of like relax from there. Once, like, if that doesn't get a reaction, then I'll just back
Let
off.
it be for time.
Yeah, and just sort of like pass the time, just asking harmless questions like, are you getting enough food and what do you think of this place and all that.
So are you ultimately going to try to push it at some point, or are you just switching tactics altogether?
Yeah, I'm going to have to push it eventually. So I'm just trying to think of the best way to go about that. So.
All right. Whitmire, give me a spot hidden. As you're not distracted with, attempts to communication at in this moment, you see that ever since Dr. Andrews has put the journal on the table, Murphy's eyes have been kind of flickering over to Dr. Powell every now and then. You just see that happen like 4 or 5 times during the course of Dr. Andrews speaking.
All right. I'm going to ask him if we can have a few minutes alone with him, as we wanted to talk about some possibly sensitive subjects.
So Powell doesn't look very comfortable with that, but you might be able to get him to go along with it with a...
Damn it. That's not happening.
Push it.
I can luck that, 'cause I've got enough.
Always push.
So what's the fast talk component of it? What's going to unravel? Are you claiming some expertise and some knowledge? Okay. You're going to end up in the operating room. You're going to have to perform a tonsillectomy. Okay. Yeah, so we can say like, well, we found in our study of gentlemen like Mr. Murphy here that it's best that the fewer people are in the room, they'll open up more. And he goes along with it, and he exits the room, leaving you alone with Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy.
All right. And then I was going to tell him, like, hey, like, we probably don't have much time. So, whatever you wanted to share with us is like, now is the time.
Okay. So he picks up that journal, and the first thing he does is he removes or flattens out all the dog ears that have appeared in it over the years. And then he goes to the back page, and with that dark gravy, he writes a word in cursive really quick. And then he, with it still open, so it can dry a little bit, he lifts up his shoe, and they're a kind of slipper they've put everybody in here. And between the sole and the material of his shoe, he pulls out a long insect-like hair and puts that on the table with his eyes darting towards the door.
Yeah, it's just like that one we dropped off at the university.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask him where... I found one of those under your uncle's bed. Where did this come from?
His eyes go dim for a moment and then wide, as though he went to reference the memory, but then fled from it a bit. And he just shakes his head.
Do like a psychology? Do I even need to realize that he's seen something that he wishes he hadn't?
No, that's pretty obvious.
Okay.
To both of you.
And
you can see the word on that back page is Latakia.
Latakia. Okay.
Or Latakia, perhaps.
As I'm going to try to put him at ease a little bit. Like, I understand that it's tough, some of the things that happen in life. As me and Wally here have been through quite a bit as well. So, don't worry about saying any more on whatever this is, and I'll like tap next to the hair thing.
Okay.
As I do want to. I think we should put that inside the journal to hide it, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at this stage,
put
if
it
you
in my
close it,
pocket.
the word will be obscured, but it's easy enough to remember. But let's pause there for a moment while you're giving Charlie Murphy room to breathe and think, and jump over to Mr. Monroe as he's on the cold trail of Mr. Mueller. And your cab arrives to take you to Salisbury, where you know Mr. Mueller was dropped off at the boarding house. And there's a red-haired, middle-aged woman who owns it.
Okay. So yeah, I'll step out and I'll say, my good lady, perhaps you could help me with something.
Oh, yes, anything. Will you be needing a room?
It's possible, but I actually came to ask after a friend of mine who may have taken up residence in your boarding house temporarily. An elderly gentleman, German descent, has a German accent.
Her face, the color drains from her face.
Do I see it as obvious?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like, yes, I knew the man. He stayed in my room just the night before last, and odd gentleman. He really did some damage to my room. The pillows were torn apart, with feathers everywhere. The Bible in there was gnawed upon, I would say. And the bedposts also appeared to be gnawed upon. And I wasn't awake myself, but one of the other guests said he fled in the night, spouting some sort of gibberish. They couldn't make heads or tails of it. And wouldn't you know, the next morning we hear Hampton's car was stolen. I don't know if the two are connected. He seemed like a kind enough gentleman.
Yes, it is far outside the reserved Dr. Mueller that I knew and have had correspondence with. Are you sure that he's the one that did the damage and that he wasn't perhaps assaulted or accosted in the room and fled from it? Because I've been receiving messages from him that makes me worry about his safety.
I suppose it could have happened that way. I guess the only reason I think it happened the other way is because the way the particulars of the room that he asked for, he described them very oddly. It was like a man describing a mill, not a room, and those two ideas were just in my head. But it could be, as you say.
Would you mind showing me the room, my good lady?
Yes, well, I've made it up some since then, but you can see the scoring on the bedposts, and I think I still have that Bible.
Okay, yes, thank you very much.
And those prove, you can see teeth marks on those round bedposts ends. Like they just, maybe they looked like dollops of caramel or something. Somebody tried to take a good chunk out of them, and she goes into the closet and up on a shelf in there. She grabs down that Bible, which has since been replaced with a new one. And you can see the leather binding also has a similar pattern of teeth marks, and several sections of the Bible are missing, particularly Old Testament, entire chapters. Okay. The thin pages are torn out and missing.
All right. I'll say, my fair lady, may I take the Bible with me? Of course, I'll pay for it and reimburse you for the damages that have happened while my friend was staying here. If you could point me towards the person that had seen him flee, I would also be very grateful.
Well, I have their name in the register, but they've gone on to parts unknown. Which you can get that name. It's Ruth Meyer was the woman who heard the insane flight in the night.
Okay. And then I'll say, and who was this gentleman who had his car stolen?
Mr. Hampton. He goes down to Newburyport Station and sells his wares there.
Apparently,
right? Yeah, you're aware.
Oh my!
Apparently, one of his trucks was stolen. The new one that he had just bought, and I'm afraid he's forced to go back to his older truck.
Oh my!
Apparently, nothing can be said about it from the police, except that it was seen departing south to somewhere in Massachusetts.
Do you know where I might be able to rent a vehicle?
No, I don't think so. But you could. I mean, we have the car service here, so.
Well, I'm very concerned of my friend's well-being, and feel that I must try to find him. And if he fled south in a vehicle, perhaps I can find somewhere that recognizes the vehicle or him himself. Do you know which route he was taking south?
Well, I think he was spotted on the South Road out of Salisbury, which goes down to places like Bolton, Salem, Arkham, and such.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And then
or at least the car was spotted. They didn't spot him.
I'll pull my one of my museum bills out and say, and of course, madam, if you are ever in the Boston area and would like a good entertainment, please stop by my museum. And, continuing to pimp my museum everywhere I go.
She actually seems pleased. She's like, "Oh, a curioso, how lovely. If I'm ever in Boston, I will check it out. Thank you."
Yes, in many of my archaeological digs along the East Coast, I have found some fascinating things that are truly spectacular.
Now, will you be needing a room tonight? Or I have,
I'm afraid not, my good woman. And I feel with this new discovery that I must endeavor with all haste to find my friend.
And you mentioned something about paying for the damages?
Yes. How much would it cost?
What's your cash allotment?
My cash, that's under...
Or your daily spending
possessions
limit?
Cash is 546, daily is 10.
So it's outside your daily, so I'd have to dip in your cash, but $20 should cover.
All right. Yeah, I'll cover that.
And after you exit the boarding house, where to?
I'll go to the car sharing service or whatever and tell them to head south to the nearest junction.
Okay.
Because there's probably another town where it would split off to go to different areas as well. And
yeah.
Continue to follow the trail of Johann's madness.
Yeah, so the first segment of the journey, it goes through these little unnamed villages of Massachusetts, although they are named, they're just not known to you. But with the sagging gambrel roofs and that New England pastiche you're familiar with, and people that stop and stare at the motor as it goes down the road. In one case, you're in one of these little towns and you see some damage to a fence that's along the roadway, right?
Okay.
That an old woman is out there like very slowly and methodically trying to put it back together. It's more, rather than being a fence to actually keep anything out, it seems more decorative, like a little white pickets, right?
Okay.
And so you just catch that as you look out the window.
All right. I'll hope that wasn't even that it was just part of daily life, but in the back of my mind, I'm
hot on the trail.
Yeah. And whenever we stop for gas or whatever, then I'll see if anyone and I'll mention the truck, not the gentleman.
Well, it's at this point that the car, your driver, right? You come to a fork and you're like, well, we can go on to Bolton here, or this one goes down to Arkham a ways.
Okay. Yeah, I'll see if there's a gas attendant or somebody that had seen the red truck go by.
Okay, give me a luck roll.
Ooh.
How'd you do?
52 out of 53.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah, he says, I just opened up the shop. I was just getting ready. It was very early in the morning before the sun was out even. And I heard a great clatter. This maniac came down in a truck and went over fence. You saw that, I'm sure, on the road?
Yes, I saw it.
He just veered into it, I suppose, but he was back on the road, and then it looked like he head off to Arkham.
Thank you, good sir. I'm trying to track this maniac down.
Oh, really? Is he a danger? Besides behind the wheel of a vehicle?
No, but there are some other damages that I need to ask him some questions about.
Well, yeah, he definitely didn't take the Bolton route. I mean, he might not have ended up in Arkham because it does diverge from that point again, but that's the next major town before you get to Salem.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, have a good day. He's holding his hand out waiting for his brochure.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Your infamy has preceded you.
Yeah. So, I will pull out a bill and ask him that if he has a chance to, post it in his shop somewhere, that it would be greatly appreciated, and, give him like $1.
Oh, Oh, okay. He was going to ask how much for the advertising. But yeah, so he kind of tents it up on the old-timey cash register right up front there, folds it out so people can see the name. What was it? The New England?
The New England Museum of the Occult.
All right. So yeah. So back in the car with your driver, you head down the Arkham route, and it's a long country drive through some smaller towns. At one point, you see a dog dead on the side of the road, perhaps struck by Mueller, but maybe not.
Is it not a pond?
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
No, you can't really tell as you zoom past at a brisk 25 miles an hour. But eventually you arrive at the outskirts of Arkham. And this would put you at about noon, just maybe shortly after. And there you see a horse team hauling away a crashed pickup fitting the description of Mr. Hampton's pickup.
Okay.
And a damaged telephone pole.
All right. At that point, I'll pay for the ride and say that I believe I've reached the end of my road, or at the very least, I should be able to find another ride from here if I need one.
Have a good day, sir. And he shakes your hand.
Well, you never know. I might have.
So the crowd that Mueller interacted with when he came upon this scene was a bit earlier in the day. And you can see they've dispersed, although there's still some kids out there scratching their head and wondering how this telephone pole is going to be fixed because it's broken kind of down by the base and hanging by the wires.
Okay.
Old man feet tracking miskatonic mud on the sidewalk.
Well, I guess first I'll go up to the crowd and ask about the crash.
Oh, to the kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, we don't know. We were sleeping when it happened.
Do you know if the driver is okay?
He was long gone before anybody got here.
Long gone, huh? And this happened early this morning, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you point me to the local boarding house?
Yeah, there's quite a few. The nearest one, and they give you some directions to a boarding house.
Okay.
It's down kind of by the college part of town.
Okay. Yeah, I'll head in that direction. And no, you had a home here, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, what are the chances of him possibly knowing that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember do you think that we would have been at least...
I think when we first started, you guys were acquainted with each other as SEU members, but I don't think we described any further.
But I would know that he had been renting a room in Boston because he didn't live there. I
mean, you think he probably lives here. You might be able to consult the directory. Okay. I mean, that's going to answer your question one way or the other.
I'll find a directory or I don't know. Back then, you could probably just ring the operator and see if
right if you find a place with a phone.
Yeah.
Well, you have both those options. Their directories are kept at various places.
Okay.
Of public places, or you could go someplace with a phone.
Yeah. Whichever I come to first.
Yeah, we'll say you get a directory, and they're kind of like our phone books now, although much thinner. Ours are going thin now, but anyhow, that's beside the point. But anyhow, you go through it until there Johann Mueller at this address, and it's you're not that well versed with Arkham.
I did go to college here.
Okay.
So I probably have some.
Yeah, so it's a district of the town where Polish immigrants are predominant, right? So it's a little bit poorer, a little bit seedier for Arkham. You're probably not going to get stabbed, but it's just for people who
lots of side eyes,
right?
Yeah, especially wearing what I'm wearing.
But there's a significant Polish population, along with a few Italians, that sort of thing.
I was kind of nodding my head, saying that makes sense, and head that direction.
Okay, give me a luck roll as you pass along the way.
Let's see if it holds out. Nope.
No.
So far, my failures have been good story drivers. So,
well, in this case, you just zigged instead of zagged, so you missed a thoroughfare where you might have heard of talk about an attack at a museum, and you just went down a quieter path, and eventually...
Missing Johann crawl out of the storm drain like a spider.
You would arrive at Johann's place, which is a humble abode there in this district of town. And this is about mid-afternoon when you get there.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mueller, give me a power roll as you examine this dagger, thinking about...
Why I would possibly want it.
Right.
All right, power.
You just need a regular success. You're, 11 away from it?
Ooh, that's going to put me dangerously low on luck, but...
Yeah, you're starting to feel kind of like a dimming of your consciousness, almost like you're slipping back into a sedative state.
Yeah.
And your relief almost turns to panic at that, but...
Because of the fear of sleep. Yeah, I think roleplay-wise, as well as me-wise, I will luck that and spend the 11.
Okay. So whatever that is, it ends up being a temporary fugue, and then as you are done looking at the dagger or something, there's a tap, tap, tap at your door.
Well, I have the dagger in one hand and the gun in the other.
And a 1,000,000-year-old stare.
Yeah.
A little frayed around the edges.
So I've kind of been holding the gun at the side, but or maybe I was pointing it, who knows, with Mueller, but I'll kind of look to the door and then back to the dagger.
You have, like a little thing it slides up into the side so you can look through your peephole if you'd like.
I'll put the dagger down near, like on I don't know, this place probably doesn't have like pillars or banisters or anything. Not a banister, but...
no, you do have some shelves to store various items that
like
go
that.
in your mudroom.
I'll put it on the sill next to the door. Like, I'm guessing there's like some...
Yeah. Okay.
like a cheap, like, not stained glass, but where you can't really see through it type window. So I'll do that.
Bubbled glass.
I'm a little bit worried you're going to shoot me.
I'll put the gun
after
to the door.
me.
Okay.
And I'll lift up the peephole.
And you see a brochure to a Curioso in Massachusetts.
Sand roll.
Sand roll. It's the drawing that Whitmire did of the Harvard. No, you see Mr. Monroe there waiting expectantly at your door, although maybe, thinking that no one's home even after a short...
Looking around.
Yeah, because there's this strange narrative on your journey down here. So
Yeah. But yeah, I'll wait,
But you probably see the dang latch go up, or hear it maybe.
Yeah, you could hear movement inside or see something behind that glass with a successful roll. You can do listen or spot, whichever works for you.
I don't think either works for me.
Your thoughts are just too much of a clamoring for you to notice fine details.
And to visit his Curioso.
I guess my spot hidden's not that bad. Yes, it's not good enough though.
Well, as far as you know, you don't hear anybody inside, but...
So yeah, I'll wait for, 10, 15 seconds, and then I'll knock again, and then I'll say, Dr. Mueller, it's Lance Monroe. He's going to shoot me just because he doesn't like not because he's afraid of me.
I'll carefully lower the latch on the peephole. I'll go over to where the De Vermis Mysterium is and put a pile of books on it.
Okay.
Put my gun in its shoulder holster. If I'm not wearing something over that, I'll put something on.
Okay. And that amount of movement makes it, unless you're particularly trying to be stealthy, makes it obvious that there is somebody inside. But anyhow, you go back to the door then?
Yeah. And I'll open it and I'll smile.
Oh,
Herr Monroe.
Thank goodness you're okay. I've heard the most terrifying stories.
Let's do an opposed roll on that first contact with each other. Yours is going to be psychology, and yours is going to be your attempt to basically put your whole experience in a bottle and not let it come out of you.
What would that be?
Well, you can use a social skill if you have a good one, like say charm.
Nah, that ain't that good. What's the other one? That'd probably be like one step higher than what he's rolling, right? So
yeah, if you want to leave it to like a characteristic, we could try your willpower, like your power roll, but it would have to be at hard.
That was a horrible failure on my part.
Dang. Yeah, we'll try charm and just pray for the best. Nope. So we're both know that the other's on to us, but we're not going to.
Yeah. Like, something's off, but
Well, it's been a strange last 24 hours for everybody. So you wordlessly call it a stalemate and you continue on. But actually, on that point, I think we're going to have to call it today. So we will leave off with Monroe standing at a very crazy Mr. Mueller's door. Thank you guys for playing. Appreciate it. I'll see you next time.
Hell yeah, man.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Travis.
I was really hoping you would have just walked in,
oh no, I'm not.
because then I would have shot you. And it probably would have been after you stopped and said, oh.
This has been a Death Watch production. Thank you for listening.